morning, Mark Frederic, Le Choc Anglais. I will cough. I know I will. I can feel it coming. There was sooner than expected. But got to try and keep warm. As you can see, I'm down in the allotment under my pagoda. It's where I take care of all my seedlings under the pagoda, and it's a bit of a shelter. Oh, there's my e-bike with covers for my hands, albeit I wear gloves. The cold weather can be perishing here sometimes. So today's video, that's my tool shed in the back, and it's just open in there. That's where all the tools are kept, and a compost toilet there in the background. Yeah, that you didn't need to know that. Yeah, today's video, the purpose of today's video is corned beef. What is corned beef? What's all that about? Okay, well, corned beef, how do I start this? Well, it's beef, okay, and it goes back centuries, and it goes back to the times of when we travelled by ship, you know, from country to country. So you know, those people who would travel from you know, just say Plymouth and go to the Americas, things like that, they would pack up their barrels on the ships and store all the meat, salt all the meat, and then that way they could eat the meat whilst they're travelling, because of course several hundred years ago there's no refrigeration, so you had to basically cure and store your meats in salt. So salt back then, there was no refined salt back then like there is today, like table salt with those bloody additives. It was all relatively large pieces or corns of salt. Yes, corns of salt. Now you can see now where we're heading, can't you? So so just like wheat, little pieces of wheat, okay, they are corns. They're called corns. So salt was roughly about that size, so they were called corns of salt. So, you know, we've got sweet corn, so when you get down to the individual pieces, okay, so those are sweet corns or corns of maize. And but salt was always in rough form, shall we say, back then. No refined salt. Albeit, you know, one or two people realised breaking it down even finer, it would go further, for one thing, and you can use it in different ways. But anyway, for preserving meat back then, particularly beef, because that's what we're talking about, corned beef, you would basically put your beef in the barrels and you know, packed in salt. So so a bit like how you would pack herrings and God knows where else, beef was no exception. So it adopted the name because by the time you got round to eating the beef, the meat had changed colour, so it was more of a pink colour, like we associate corned beef to be, and any other cured, you know, products. And in salt, it's got different ingredients, and it's also got a quantity of nitrates in it, you know, naturally. So and it would be that conversion of nitrates to nitrites that would change the colour of the meat. But anyway, I don't want to get all technical and all that stuff, plus I hate science. I just like to talk layman's terms because it's much bloody easier for me anyway, because I'm, you know, I'm not a bright spark, never was. But anyway, I know what I enjoy, and corned beef is one of those things that I enjoy. So, and that's how it got its name, because it was just basically cured beef with corns of salt, and it's adopted the name corned beef or corned beef. You could use either of those words. So corned beef. You can do whole mussels, and some of the cheapest way to do corned beef is actually using silverside or salmon cut. Maybe some of those primals that you can't always sell easily, maybe. But maybe you've got no trouble selling them, and if that's the case, good luck to you. That's brilliant. But yeah, you could choose those mussels and cure those in coarse sea salt, effectively corn salt, corns of salt, and create your corned beef. Now, when I make corned beef from whole primal mussels, you know, like topside, silverside, whatever, then I tend to dry cure, but in a vacuum bag, modern dry curing, at where I can. However, a tip I have to say is, if there's one meat or one category of meat that lends itself well to brining, wet curing, it's red meat. So beef is no exception. I can't explain the science, so don't ask me, I haven't a clue. But I know this much, albeit brining or wet curing is my second favourite, shall we say. I always prefer dry curing. You find red meats cure rather well brined. So this could be the route for you. But, so myself, I just make up a mix. Usually, if it's corned beef, I tend to use a sweet cure because I like that kind of finish, a bit of a sweet finish to the beef. So there I would apply it 60% salt, 40% sugar, and then apply it at 50 grams per kilo of meat, or in the brine per litre of water. That sounds a lot, doesn't it? But just use narrow vessels, so as you're not using as much water. Try and take up as much space as you can with the meat. That way you're using less salt, so you keep the price down, and of course using less water. You've got to ensure the meat is completely sunk underneath the level of the water if you're brining. So brining or dry curing, that's what you're doing. You're applying you're applying, you know, your cure, but dry curing using the corns of salt is just going back in history, in time. That's what corned beef became from that. So it was dry curing because it was done in the barrels, you know. But in modern ways, you can get really good results from brining. So there we are, dry curing using corns of salt to do primals of beef, and once after curing, I would cure a primal. Well, 2 to 3 weeks. I like to do it the slow way, so that works for me. You might want to do it a lot quicker, and then cook it. And it's again, it's your choice as to how you cook it. I like to do mine in a bouillon. So just to flavour it a little bit, help to keep the flavours. And another way to do corned beef is a bit like, the cans of corned beef, the tins of corned beef, like we get from Argentina and places, Brazil. Well, that corned beef very often is, after curing, it's all been put through a mincer of some sort, cutter, and then it's then put into the tins, and then the tins are cooked. But you could do the same, but using, unless you got tin sealing equipment and cans to work with, what you want to be choosing is something as simple as a bread tin, or something of that shape, where you can, if you've got 2 bread tins the same size as it were, once you've cooked, you could cook it sous vide if need be, sous vide, or in a bain-marie, and then if you've got a second vessel, you can stick that on top with weights as it's chilling down after you're cooking, and you can press it a little bit. But you've probably seen on my previous videos, I can't remember which one now, I've showed you those little ham presses. You know, they just take about up to like a kilo of meat. They're fantastic for making your corned beef. And you put your minced corned beef complete with the fat, you know, and if you've got fatty beef, it really helps you. Well, it does if if you like me, because I love the fat. Don't go mad, but make sure there's enough in there, plenty in. And so mince, get it in these ham cookers, because they've got they're spring loaded, if you remember, with a flat plate, and then the lid above top of the spring, so that presses down on the meat. So by the time you've gone through the cooking and the chilling down and the pressing is taking place, all the meat is compacting. So having minced your meat, you want it compacted, otherwise it's full of air and cavities where spoilage can happen, so you don't want that. And you want to be able to slice something and it's completely filled, the slice is filled. You don't want holes in it. So these little ham presses are ideal, and they're not much money to buy. If you can afford the professional ones, better still, and then you can make all kinds of sizes and weights and one thing and t'other. So yeah, cook it, chill it, take it out, slice it, and you got corned beef just like you would as if you just bought it in a tin. So of course it hasn't hasn't been shipped halfway around the world. Local, and it's yours, and there you are. You can call it homemade corned beef or corned beef, and that's what corns are, corns of salt. So if you want to stick to tradition, use some corns of salt to cure your beef, and well, I've just told you everything else. So once you've made your own corned beef, you'll be surprised as to how near to the taste of the tin corned beef, but yet your homemade, it has this superiority. There's something about it everything about it's elevated. It's like, you're eating something special, and if you can get that across your meat counters to your customers on your deli counters, oh my goodness, you're going to have some happy customers, I tell you. Especially the old folks, they like to come in and just buy, but 2 slices to push, maybe 4 slices. They don't buy a lot, do they, bless them? But they buy enough to treat themselves. But you're making them happy, so think about that. So the old ears, come in, 2 slices of corned beef, please. Probably not spend much else, but bless them. We need customers like that, and they keep us alive, and we're gonna be like that one day. But for all those home users who are going to make corned beef just out of hobby and something to do, and you just want to get into this charcuterie from a different angle using beef, and you'll be pleased with this one. I just want to end this video because just before I switched the camera on, I was looking up. I don't know if you can. I can't really see it. Maybe up there. Point the camera that way. It's gone now. I could have, because today's the 31st of October, and I could have swore. I hope I'm not going crazy. I could have swore I saw 3 witches going across the sky on broomsticks in the daylight. I always thought they always flew, like at dusk. And just in silhouette form. But yeah, just before I switched my camera on, and which is a shame, because I would have loved to have captured them, but they caught me by surprise. But and they were shouting something at me, and I looked up and I shouted back, "Now then," to the 3 of them. I said, "Now then, which is which?" Happy Halloween. Toodaloo.